From the outside, our marriage looked unshakable. Friends envied us. Family called us the perfect couple. And even I believed, for the most part, that I had somehow stumbled into a rare kind of happiness. My wife was the kind of woman who could walk into any room and instantly pull eyes toward her, not just because she was beautiful, though she was, but because she carried herself like she owned the space without even trying. She had this calm, kind demeanor that made people feel comfortable around her, like they'd known her forever. And I was proud of that. Proud that she was mine. Proud that she chose me out of everyone. We had our routines. Quiet mornings over coffee. Evenings spent cooking together. Weekend drives just to watch the sunset somewhere. No drama. No big fights. Just a steady rhythm of two people who trusted each other. Or at least, that's what I thought. It wasn't that I ever expected her to be glued to my side. We respected each other's space. She'd go meet her friends for lunch or take a long walk in the evening, and I never felt the need to check in every 5 minutes. But sometimes she'd come home from one of those outings looking different, not in a suspicious lipstick on the collar kind of way, more like brighter, lighter, like she'd been reminded of something exciting that had nothing to do with me. And though I didn't want to admit it, that planted the first small seed of doubt. It's strange how the human brain works. You can brush off one odd moment, maybe even two, but eventually they start to pile up in the back of your mind, a quiet stack of evidence that whispers, "Pay attention." The first whisper came one Tuesday evening. She said she was going out for a walk, just to clear her head. 2 hours later, I called her, but she didn't pick up. When she finally came home, she said her phone had died. I believed her, why wouldn't I? But I also noticed she didn't have her charger with her, which was odd because she always carried it. The second whisper came a week later. I was walking home from work earlier than usual and stopped by the small grocery store near our house. I was picking out some fruit when I heard the cashier's voice, loud and casual. "Hey, your wife was in here earlier with some tall, dark-haired guy. You two have a lot of fun together." Huh? She wasn't talking to me. She was chatting with another customer, but her words froze me mid-step. I didn't say anything, just paid for my things and walked out like nothing happened. But my mind kept replaying that sentence. Who was the guy? I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe it was just a friend. Maybe I was being paranoid. And yet, paranoia doesn't grow in a vacuum. It needs something real to feed on. That something came sooner than I expected. It was a Sunday night. We just finished dinner, and she said she wanted to take a quick shower. She left her phone on the table. Normally, I'd never even think about touching it, but as I reached for my glass, the screen lit up with a new message. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. The preview said enough. Tomorrow at the same time? Today was incredible. My chest went cold. I sat there, staring at those words, and felt something shift inside me. Not quite anger. Not yet, but the awareness that whatever life I thought we had wasn't the whole picture. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't say a word. Instead, I smiled, asked how her shower was, and pretended nothing had happened, because now I needed to know more. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was raging or planning something immediately, but because my brain wouldn't stop cycling through possibilities. Who was he? How long had this been going on? Was this just harmless flirting that went too far? Or was it something much deeper, much worse? By morning, I had already decided on one thing. I wasn't going to tip her off. If she knew I suspected anything, she'd get careful, maybe even hide it better. No, I needed her to feel safe, safe enough to keep making mistakes. At breakfast, I kept my voice steady. I asked about her day yesterday, about her plans today. She smiled and talked about how she needed to run some errands in the afternoon. I nodded like I believed every word. Inside, though, I was memorizing every detail of her tone, her eyes, the way she avoided looking at me too long. Around noon, I told her I had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until after dinner. She kissed me on the cheek, wished me luck, and left not long after. But I didn't go to any meeting. Instead, I stayed close to home, parked my car a few blocks away, and waited. It didn't take long. At 2:07 p.m., she walked out of the house dressed a little too nicely for errands. She wasn't in her usual jeans and sneakers. No, this was a fitted dress and heels. My stomach tightened. I followed her on foot, keeping just enough distance. She didn't go toward the market or the post office. Instead, she headed toward the older part of town, to a quiet street lined with small apartments. She stopped at one, knocked once, and the door opened almost immediately. A man stepped out, mid-30s, tall, dark-haired, with the kind of lazy confidence that made my fists itch. He smiled when he saw her, kissed her cheek, and pulled her inside. That moment, the door closing behind them, was when something in me finally snapped. I wasn't the kind of man who acted on impulse. Normally, I'd talk things out, try to understand, maybe even forgive if there was remorse. But as I stood there in the fading light, I realized forgiveness wasn't going to happen this time. Because it wasn't just betrayal. It was the way she looked at me all morning, calm and sweet, while already planning to walk into another man's arms that same day. I waited 10 minutes, 20, an hour. When I finally walked back to my car, I wasn't shaken with anger. I was cold. Cold in a way that made everything sharp and clear. That night, when she came home, her hair was a little messy, her lipstick slightly smudged. She tossed her heels in the corner like she was tired. "You're home early," she said casually, pulling her hair into a bun. "Yeah," I replied. Meeting got canceled. We sat in the living room, and I decided to test her. "So, did you get your errands done?" She didn't flinch. "Yeah, it took longer than I thought. You know how traffic is." It wasn't just a lie. It was how easy it came to her, how smooth, like she'd been practicing it for years. She didn't even blink. That's when I knew. She thought she had me fooled. She thought I was still the trusting husband who'd never looked too closely. And that's exactly what I needed her to believe. Because if she thought today was just another day, then she'd never see what was coming next. The next morning, I woke up before her. I watched her sleep for a moment, her face calm, peaceful, so convincing you'd think nothing in the world could shake her. But I knew better now. That peace wasn't innocence. It was the comfort of someone who believed they could get away with anything. I made coffee, and when she finally came into the kitchen, she greeted me with that same casual smile, kissed my cheek, and asked about my plans for the day. I told her I had a lot of work and wouldn't be home until late again. Her eyes flickered for a split second, just enough for me to know she was already calculating how she'd use the time. I had no intention of wasting another day just sitting and waiting. If I was going to bring her down, I needed facts, details, proof, something that couldn't be explained away. So I started small. First, I checked the shared calendar on our cloud account. She almost never used it for real plans, but I noticed blocks of time marked personal errands in the past month, always during weekdays, always 2 or 3 hours long. A pattern. Then I went through her car. I didn't expect to find much, but tucked between the passenger seat and the console, there was a crumpled receipt from a small cafe in the same part of town where I'd followed her. The date was 3 weeks ago. She'd paid for 2 drinks. Still not enough. I called an old friend, Evan, who owed me a favor. He used to work in private security and still had contacts who could dig up information without leaving a trail. I told him I needed to know about a man, gave him the description, the street, and the building number. I didn't give him the whole story. I just said it was personal. He didn't ask questions. While Evan worked his end, I started mine. If she wanted to play games, I played better. I signed up for a temporary phone number and sent her a text from it later that day, pretending to be a wrong number that quickly turned flirty. It was a test, a dangerous one. It didn't take long. Within a few hours, she was responding, laughing at my messages, even sending a photo of herself. Nothing explicit, but definitely not something you'd send a stranger if you were happily married. I saved everything. 2 days later, Evan called me back. "You're not going to like this," he said. The man she'd visited was named Daniel Ross. No wife, no girlfriend. Several complaints from neighbors about loud parties. Oh, and the kicker, he used to work at a company downtown, but now freelances as some kind of personal trainer and private companion. So that was it. She wasn't just risking our marriage for some emotional fling. She was sleeping with a man who treated her like another item on his list of conquests. That night, I sat across from her at dinner. She was talking about redecorating the bedroom, about how she wanted lighter curtains for the summer. I nodded, smiling, making all the right sounds at the right times. Inside, though, I was already building the outline of my plan. It wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be a screaming match or a drunken argument. No, it would be something she'd never forget. Something she'd think about every time she looked in the mirror. Because betrayal like hers didn't deserve closure. It deserved ruin. For the next week, I played the part of the loving, slightly distracted husband. I smiled when she came home, listened to her talk about her day, even agreed when she suggested we go out for dinner. She didn't know that every yes I gave her was just another brick in the wall I was building around her. Evan sent me more. Photos of her and Daniel together. Sometimes at that cafe. Sometimes leaving his building late at night. One photo in particular burned into my mind. Her hand resting on his arm, her face tilted up toward him with a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. It wasn't the smile itself that killed me. It was the way her eyes looked. Alive, hungry. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Confrontation was easy. People yelled, cried, made promises, or told lies, and then it all faded away. I didn't want that. I wanted something permanent. The first step was to make sure she trusted me completely again. I told her I'd been under a lot of stress at work, that I was sorry if I'd seemed distant lately. She softened instantly, almost too easily. She even cooked my favorite dinner that night, steak, mashed potatoes, and a bottle of wine we'd been saving. While she thought she was pulling me back in, I was mapping out every detail of the downfall I had planned. I started with a trip. I told her it was a surprise, somewhere warm, somewhere romantic to reignite the spark. She lit up like a kid at Christmas. She kept trying to guess. Greece? Italy? Bali? I told her she'd just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, I called in another favor. A guy I knew from my college days worked for an airline. For the right price, he could make sure two people booked on the same trip ended up with very different destinations. All it took was some manipulation of the booking codes and, well, one of us would be flying to somewhere comfortable and the other to somewhere they'd rather not be. But that wasn't enough. I wanted her discomfort to start before she even stepped foot on the plane. So I added layers. First, I went through her closet while she was out with friends one night. I took out her best dress, the one she'd want to wear for a romantic dinner abroad, and had it altered, subtly, so it looked fine on the hanger but would rip if she moved too quickly. I replaced her makeup kit with cheaper duplicates that wouldn't hold up under heat. Petty? Maybe, but it was a start. Then I contacted Daniel. I didn't call him outright. No. I made a fake profile and started sending him messages that hinted at knowing what he'd been up to with married women. I didn't say her name. Just enough to make him sweat, to make him think his little adventures might blow up in his face. I wanted him uneasy. I wanted her uneasy. The night before our trip, she was packing in the bedroom, humming to herself. I stood in the doorway, watching. I could almost believe the lies she'd been living. The lies she wanted me to believe, too. But my phone buzzed. A message from Evan. Got more. You'll want to see this. It was a short video, maybe 20 seconds. Her in Daniel's kitchen, wearing his shirt. Hair wet like she'd just showered. She was laughing at something, he said, leaning against the counter in a way that said she was exactly where she wanted to be. I didn't save the video. I didn't need to. It was already burned into my mind. She glanced up at me then, smiling as if nothing in the world was wrong. I can't wait for tomorrow, she said. Neither could I, only for very, very different reasons. Morning came, crisp and deceptively calm. She was already dressed when I walked into the kitchen, hair curled, makeup flawless. Suitcase by the door. She looked like an excited tourist, not like a woman who had been caught in my mental crosshairs for weeks. You ready for our adventure? She asked, her voice bright, almost childlike. More than you know, I said, pouring myself coffee. The taxi ride to the airport was filled with her guessing games again. She leaned over and whispered, "Tell me now, just you and me." I shook my head. You'll see soon enough. The suspense was part of the game for her. For me, it was part of the execution. At the check-in counter, I handed over both our passports and the tickets I'd printed at home. The attendant typed for a moment, printed 2 boarding passes, and handed them back. Mine tucked inside my passport. Hers inside hers. We walked away without comparing destinations, just as I'd arranged. Security was quick. We sat at the gate, and she leaned against my shoulder, scrolling through her phone. I glanced at the screen, not Daniel this time, just Instagram. She was posting a photo of her coffee cup with the caption, "Let the journey begin." I smiled. Oh, the journey was beginning all right. When boarding started, I kissed her cheek. Looks like our seats aren't together. I lied smoothly. Probably overbooked. I'll see you when we land. She pouted for a second, then shrugged. Okay, but you better find me the moment we get there. She scanned her boarding pass and walked down the jet bridge without looking back. I waited until she disappeared to the plane door before quietly approaching the gate agent again. My friend's handiwork was flawless. My boarding pass was for a completely different flight, leaving from another terminal in 40 minutes. While she settled into her seat, thinking she was heading toward palm trees and cocktails, she was actually en route to a very different climate, both literally and figuratively. I wandered to the terminal, bought myself a drink, and found a quiet corner where I could see her plane taxi away. There was something strangely satisfying about watching it disappear down the runway, carrying her toward a place where her charm wouldn't save her, where money or the lack of it would be her real test. My phone buzzed. Evan again. So today's the day? Yes, I typed back. By the time she realizes, I'll be halfway to somewhere better. I didn't tell him the destination I'd chosen for her. I didn't need to. The fewer people who knew, the better. All I'll say is that it was beautiful from a distance. But without cash, without a plan, without anyone she'd call for help, it would be a cage made of sunshine and sand. The last call for my flight echoed through the terminal. I picked up my small carry-on, took one last look out the window, and walked away. If she wanted to talk all night with friends, she could spend a few days talking to herself, miles away from home. Her flight left before mine, but I still touched down hours ahead of her. That alone made me smile, a quiet little irony that set the tone for the evening. I wasn't here to welcome her. I was here to watch her unravel. The hotel I checked into wasn't anything fancy, but it had a perfect view of the bay. I tossed my small bag onto the bed, loosened my shirt collar, and poured myself a drink from the minibar. My phone sat on the desk in front of me, screen dark. I didn't have to wait long. The first message lit up the screen barely 10 minutes after her flight landed. Where are you? I don't see you at the airport. I let it sit there, unread. Another ping. Babe? Did you already leave the terminal? I'm by the taxi stand. My drink tasted better with every ignored message. I picture her scanning the crowd, her suitcase clutched in one hand, her eyes darting over strangers' faces, looking for mine. The air there would be hot and sticky, filled with the smells of jet fuel and foreign food stands. The first call came soon after. I let it ring until it cut off, the silence afterward feeling almost luxurious. Then another call, and another. A voicemail followed. Her voice was still calm, but I could hear the edge in it. Hey, maybe our flights got mixed up? I'm just going to wait here for you. Call me when you land. Okay? I almost laughed. An hour passed. Messages kept coming. This isn't funny. Where are you? I don't have much cash on me. Please answer me. I'm tired. I just want to go to the hotel. She had no idea there was no hotel for her. No reservation. Nothing. I'd made sure of that. All she had was a fantasy I'd sold her. The surprise trip she'd been bragging about to her friends. By 10 p.m., the airport would be emptying out, the night pressing in from all sides. The shops would be closed, and she'd be left with hard plastic chairs and the constant, droning hum of air conditioning. Another voicemail arrived, this time more desperate. I can't get a room without a credit card. They don't take cash here. I'm still at the airport. I'm scared, okay? Just tell me where you are. Her voice cracked halfway through. I poured myself another drink, leaned back, and scrolled through her messages with Daniel. the little hearts, the inside jokes, the wish you could spend the night again texts. Every line was another nail in the coffin of any pity I might have had. Around midnight, she tried again. Her, if this is a joke, you've made your point. Just come get me. My point? No, not yet. Not even close. I imagine her shifting in her seat, eyes red from exhaustion, her phone battery slipping lower with every useless message. Alone, broke, and started to realize that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't coming. I switched my phone to silent mode, took another sip, and stared out at the calm ocean. Let her have her first night in paradise, exactly like she wanted. Unforgettable. The morning came early, though I'd barely slept. Not from guilt. There wasn't any, but from a simmering anticipation that kept me wired. I wanted to see how she would handle it, how the cracks in her perfect composure would spread. Before I even poured my coffee, I unlocked my phone. 22 missed calls. 4 voicemails. A wall of unread texts. The last one, sent at 4:13 a.m., read, Her, I'm on a bench outside now. Security keeps asking me if I need help. My phone's almost dead. I'm cold. Please tell me where you are. Cold. On Madagascar. The irony made me grin. It wasn't the temperature. It was the fear crawling under her skin. I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the bitterness spread over my tongue. Then I opened the local news app, not for any story, but to check the weather. Clear skies. The day would be scorching, the kind that presses heat into your bones. Perfect. By 8 a.m., she'd managed to find some airport Wi-Fi. The messages started again. Her, I'm still here. I don't know what to do. Taxis keep asking for too much money. Her, I can't stay here all day. Where's the hotel? Where indeed? I waited an hour before responding. Just one line. Me. Why don't you call your friend from the other night? Maybe he can buy you a ticket home. The typing indicator appeared almost instantly, then vanished. 5 minutes later, her reply came. Her, what are you talking about? I sent a photo. Not of her, not yet, but a man she thought I didn't know about. The one from her, just talking all night story. Him stepping out of our front door in his rumpled shirt, his shoes in his hand. Her reply came fast. Her, it's not what you think. I didn't answer. Instead, I closed my phone, dressed, and left the hotel for breakfast at a little seaside cafe. The air was heavy with salt, the sound of waves muffled by the laughter of tourists. A young couple 2 tables over held hands and fed each other bites of mango. I wonder if that's how we'd look once, before I'd realized her loyalty was a prop, not a principle. By noon, she'd resorted to begging. Her, please, just tell me where to go. I haven't eaten. I'm tired. Her, I swear I'll explain everything when I see you. The beauty of my plan was its simplicity. I didn't have to shout. I didn't have to smash things. All I had to do was let her sit there, in the fantasy she'd helped build, and watch it rot around her. By late afternoon, the airport staff must have been sick of seeing her. I imagined them glancing at her out of the corner of their eyes, whispering to each other about the foreign woman who wouldn't leave, the one clearly waiting for someone who'd never come. And they'd be right, because tomorrow I'd make sure she knew this was an accident or misunderstanding. Tomorrow was when the knife would really twist. By the next morning, I was fully rested. I'd slept with the balcony doors open. The oceans is pulling me deeper into a calm I hadn't felt in months. Before breakfast, I checked my phone. This time, there were only a handful of messages, all sent late at night. Her, I found a bench inside. They let me sleep there. My back hurts. I hate you for leaving me here. Her, why are you doing this? That was the one I'd been waiting for. The question that begged for the truth. I typed back slowly, savoring each word. Me, you remember when you said he was just a friend and you just talked all night? That story you told me like I was an idiot? She replied almost instantly. Her, I told you nothing happened. I sent her another photo, one she didn't know existed. It was from the small camera I'd hidden in the laundry room, right near the side door. It showed her and him coming in together at midnight, her laughing, his hand on the small of her back. both of them heading upstairs. Me, this is why. For a full 15 minutes. There was nothing. No typing bubble, no dots, no messages. Then finally, her. Please, just get me out of here. We can talk about it when we're home. I smiled at the word home. That wasn't her home anymore. I walked down to the beach and ordered a coffee. The sun was already climbing, turning the sand into a white glare. I could almost picture her sitting in the airport, sweating, clutching her nearly dead phone, looking at every face that passed like it might be mine. I decided to finish it. No half measures. I dialed her number and, for the first time since she'd landed, I actually called. She answered on the first ring, her voice trembling. Where are you? Please tell me where you are. I'm about 2,000 miles away, I said calmly. Enjoying the ocean, sleeping in a real bed, eating good food. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. Why are you doing this to me? Because you did it first, I replied. Because you thought I wouldn't notice. Because you lied and smiled and thought a kiss goodnight would erase everything. But it didn't. I told you. She started, but I cut her off. No, you told me a story. And while you were telling it, I found his shirt in our laundry basket. I found the wrapper in our trash. I knew before you even finished your sentence. Silence. I could have screamed. I could have thrown you out. But I wanted you to understand what it feels like to be stranded somewhere, with no one coming to save you. You've got a whole island to figure that out. Her voice broke. I have no money. No one here. Please, don't leave me like this. I already have, I said. And in case you're wondering, there's no return ticket. That seat you thought you had next to me? I canceled it before we left. The sobbing started then, loud, uncontrolled. I ended the call. As I set my phone down, the sound of the waves drowned out the last trace of her voice. The next day, I decided not to check my phone until noon. When I finally did, the screen was lit up with messages and missed calls, but none of them were from her number. Instead, they were from an unfamiliar local code, probably the airport, or a stranger's phone she'd begged to borrow. One voicemail was only 30 seconds long, but I played it twice. Please, her voice cracked. I'm at the consulate. They said they can't help without ID. Someone stole my bag. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Please call me back. I sat on the balcony, sipping cold beer while the sun painted the water gold. Her panic didn't stir any guilt in me. It only confirmed that she was finally feeling the helplessness I'd felt the night I found her lies. By evening, she'd sent another wave of messages. Unknown. They're closing the airport overnight. I have nowhere to sleep. The hotel I tried won't take me without a card. I'm begging you. Just tell me where you are. Unknown. I'll admit it. I'll say I was wrong. Just please come get me. I didn't answer. Instead, I booked a massage, walked along the shore, and had dinner with live music playing in the background. It was a perfect night, made even sweeter by the fact that she was probably curled up on a hard chair in some dimly lit terminal, wondering how her life had unraveled so fast. Over the next 2 days, the messages became less frequent, then stopped entirely. I figured her phone had finally died, or she'd run out of ways to reach me. When my trip ended, I flew home alone, sliding my suitcase into the apartment like I'd never left. Her clothes were still in the closet, her shoes by the door. I gathered them all in black garbage bags, set them out on the porch, and sent one final text to her old number. Me, your things are outside. Don't come in. We're done. No reply. 2 days later, I saw a post from a mutual friend online, a blurry photo of her, sitting on a curb somewhere, hugging her knees, hair tangled, face pale. The caption was short, back from Madagascar. Rough trip. I laughed out loud. Not because of where she'd been, but because now everyone who saw that picture would know something had gone terribly wrong. And she'd never be able to tell the real story without admitting what she'd done. The best revenge isn't just making them suffer. It's making sure they can't even explain why. A week passed before I saw her again. It wasn't planned. I was at the grocery store, walking past the produce section, when I caught a glimpse of her near the bakery. She looked thinner, worn out, hair pulled back in a messy knot. She was speaking to someone, but her eyes caught mine. For a moment, we just stared. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but I simply shook my head once, slow and deliberate, then turned my cart down another aisle. I didn't know her a scene. I didn't know her closure. The trip had already been that. Back home, I pulled out my laptop and went through my files. Photos of us together, videos, messages. One by one, I dragged them into the trash. The wedding album, the anniversary dinner shots, the vacations, all gone, not out of hatred, but because I no longer want to carry even the shadow of her. The next step was practical. I changed every password she might have known, closed a joint account we barely used, and called the landlord to remove her name from the lease. It felt clean, like scrubbing a wall until no stain remained. That night, sitting on the balcony with a glass of whiskey, I thought about the moment I'd first found her betrayal, the way my stomach had dropped, the heat in my chest. It was gone now, replaced by a calm emptiness. Revenge hadn't just punished her, it had freed me. My phone buzzed once. A new number. I just wanted to talk. The message read. I stared at it for a long moment, then locked the screen and set it face down. The sound of the ocean from my speakers filled the silence. Somewhere in the world, she was still trying to explain herself. But I had already written the ending. No final words. No forgiveness. No going back. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the chapter was closed. And this time, I'd been the one to turn the page.